Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Event Tech Talk Show. Today we're talking to Farbad Zabetian. Did I get that right, Farbad?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Farbad is the founder and CEO of an organization called Kudo. They are a real-time language translation platform powering multilingual events and meetings. Now, Farbad has spent years at the intersection of language, events, and technology. He built Kudo to solve one of the toughest problems in global events, and that's talking and understanding across languages in live settings. Kudo now offers seamless, continuous speech translation powered by human interpreters and cutting-edge AI, supporting dozens of languages and integrated into video platforms, hybrid events, and in-person experiences. Now, in this episode, we'll go from Farbad's early career and what drew him into events and language tech, to the story behind Kudo's founding growth. So Farbad, thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join me here in Dubai for this episode, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me.
So looking at your career and what brought you to launch Kudo, what did the early days of your career look like? How did you get started out?
Well, I'm happy actually we do this recording not very far from where I was born and raised. So I'm originally from Iran, born and raised in Tehran, which is only an hour flight from here. I haven't been there, unfortunately, for 20 plus years. I'm based in New York. I was 9 years old, and my dad was serving the Iranian army during the war between Iran and Iraq. And think about an 9-year-old who's seeing his dad only a week out of 2 months. So I was watching one of these UN Security Council on TV when they were discussing a potential ceasefire between Iran and Iraq after a 7-8 year war. And I was fascinated by how interpreters really make it possible for all these head of states to be able to communicate and debate. And I thought this is an extraordinary talent. And this was kind of early on my inspiration. So fast forward 20 years after, I'm in California, in San Francisco, and I finished my grad school, and I want to start my very first company in the States back in 2002. So that led me to start Media Vision, which was a company providing equipment for language interpretation and conferencing.
Thinking about your first experience, it dawned on me what a high-pressure job being an interpreter for people in government and power, often negotiating things like laws and treaties and things like that. Like one slip-up could mean terrible things, right? I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm always fascinated, even after being close to this very talented group of professional interpreters. I'm still fascinated. If you ask me just to repeat what I'm hearing in the same language at the same time, I'm not able to do that. What if I'm being asked to translate into a second or third language? So definitely quite talented individuals that are very limited number of them out there. And this is called simultaneous interpretation, when you are interpreting into a second language real time simultaneously.
I definitely think there's probably a business in domestic interpretation as well, because my wife's Dutch and I'm English, and we definitely misunderstand each other quite a lot of the time. So I think that maybe I need somebody in between me and her to help out a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure an interpreter would help that.
A mediator, boxing coach, something like that maybe. What did the early days of Media Vision look like then? Because, you know, it sounds like 20 years ago, that was probably quite early on in the days, maybe, of companies like that existing. Like, was there a particular type of event that you guys ended up focusing on at the time?
Yeah, so definitely a few main differences compared to today is I used to go to Kinko's, which was the print shop at the time, to print brochures and mail to prospects. So again, as a new immigrant in the age of 25, starting a business in a new country has its own challenges. Um, but we had a good journey. You know, we grew the business, opened offices in Washington D.C., in New York, in Paris, in London, in Geneva, and over 20 years we were very fortunate to support many large organizations with their technology to be able to do conferencing and interpretation, including the UN headquarters in New York. I recall one of my proudest moments was giving a tour behind the scene to my dad, showing Security Council and the technology behind this, and told him the whole story when I was 8 years old. So, when it comes to supporting events, I started a second company to be able to focus on the events called Conference Rental back in 2007. We did like G20, IMF, World Bank annual meetings, really large size events, sometimes 50,000 people coming in different venues. We were mobilizing, and both companies really excelled at this space. And again, another proud moment, I was at G20 in Cabo, Mexico, and it was the first night the event started, and was watching fireworks in this very highly secure area. And I looked to my right, and President Obama was standing next to me. I did not notice. And I basically said hello and introduced myself. And I said, I'm my company from US is doing all the interpretation and conferencing. And he said, thank you. He shook my hands. So these moments are quite special.
I think the honest truth there, something you said, is that we probably get into these things and set these businesses up, not for the money or the glory, but to make our parents proud. Yeah. I think I've had the pleasure of being able to do that myself. I'm very fortunate as well, to be in privileged situations where you can meet some very interesting or influential people as well. Before we move on to a bit more about Kudo, this podcast is listened to by a lot of fellow founders and other entrepreneurs, or people even just starting out in the events industry. Do you think it's more challenging now to launch a business, or easier now to launch a business?
So, number of businesses that I have been personally involved and started in the last 5 years accelerated quite significantly. It's just much easier to start a business. To succeed and to grow and to expand, you really need to have your own moat and basically differentiated approach. However, starting a business, it's much easier. Of course, where you are, what country, what kind of a access to the market you have. But I do recall I was going into public library in Silicon Valley to get the list of audio-visual rental companies to be able to print a brochure and mail them physically, because there was not a very good directory. This is 2003, right? Of course, today now, you can put together a complete go-to-market strategy within hours with all the companies within a specific market and the right messaging, and have your agent do it for you, right? Without even doing the work yourself.
I think maybe though, in a world where so much of the marketing message is delivered either on platforms like LinkedIn or through email, maybe going back to printing those brochures and mailing them to those specific customers and targets that you want to get in front of. Maybe that's the hack. Yeah. Maybe that's how you get a good start this year.
For a few years, I stopped doing that, which I should resume, I think. For every purchase order, every contract that we sign, I used to write a handwritten thank you card and that was quite nice. But now it's a bit challenging with all these international based customers, and what by the time the mail gets there,
You'd be like that, sat there, just
Yeah.
like signing all these
Yeah.
cards. Maybe there's a business there for somebody to set up and help founders like ourselves get those cards and things out to those special
I'm
customers.
sure there's going to be a thank you card.ai coming up.
Adam, you've forgotten Fardad's birthday again. So you had two amazing businesses, and Conference Rental still a very much established and thriving business. We had Andrew, the CEO, on recently on another episode of the podcast. What led you to launch Kudo then? In some ways, some could argue in slight competition kind of thing.
Yeah, very good question. So when you are really focusing on a mission, and there are many ways to get there, and as you build technology, build basically solutions to make it more accessible for users, then you realize how bigger actually the market is than what you really thought at the beginning. So that's kind of the bet I put for my career over the last 2 decades. So of course, during I moved to New York to manage that UN project I was talking about, and it took about 3-4 years, $200 million in technology capital, $2 billion overall renovation, the entire building, and delays. There was a Sandy storm, hurricane in New York, and then it flooded some of the buildings. So 3-4 years, $200 million, and amazing opportunity for me and my business at the time. But then I realized that not everybody has the infrastructure, has the use case, has the resources as the UN. What if we provide language accessibility for businesses? And definitely this market is going to grow significantly, and there are more businesses that are going global. This is a couple of years before pandemic. So global workforce is going to be a key for any thriving business. Access to talent, access to diverse customers, and definitely language still the last piece of the puzzle. So that led to the idea of Kudo, starting Kudo, while of course not trying to take over the market or the piece of the pie that is done by that traditional, highly kind of a
Highly skilled,
on-site
right?
experience, but more for a whole new space that I think was a blue ocean at the time.
Yeah, I think it's important when you see an opportunity to kind of create a market maybe or expand into a market. Often companies kind of naturally add that to their existing infrastructure, their business. And then sometimes it can be actual undoing, can't it? Because it becomes very confusing to a customer where your focus is and what you're specialized in and things like that. And I also think there's often people that are focused on searching for a particular thing and want to see a particular message versus going to another business that says they offer what they've already decided maybe is not the right solution for them.
Yeah.
So I think that's a smart strategy in terms of like having both businesses that are ultimately probably quite complementary to each other, giving people lots of different options. How has Kudo evolved over those years then from its first inception to the business that it is today?
So it's been evolving, and there's still a lot ahead of us. I've been evolved in as well. I've been adopting, because, when you do Security Council, like, failure is not an option. When you provide equipment for head of states and you want them to be able to discuss very pressing topics, you focus on quality, you focus on perfection, right? So initial idea of Kudo was we try to bring all we learned into a software platform that there is no initial equipment cost, infrastructure. So people, they can start using the platform day one as a SaaS platform. And of course, human interpretation was really our focus and our expertise. So we thought about these are very small group of professionals living remotely in different countries. And there are very few group of interpreters that are based in New York, based in Geneva, based in Paris, based in London, who have access to this on-site venues and events. Otherwise, you need to travel them into your event space, and again, additional costs. So what if we build a marketplace that we can bring these quality, highly trained professional interpreters through our platform, while also people they can meet on our platform, purpose-built with multilingual, but really focusing on is product-led. So the event space within language interpretation was very high touch. We wanted to build a platform that our partners, event producers, AV technicians, they can really do it themselves, and we just support them based on quite a SaaS business model. So think about the SaaS platform coupled with a marketplace when you have interpreters one side, and you can bring them to your video calls, and then we start integrating into different video and event platforms. So we have about 6 native integrations and multiple add-on through iframe and widgets. So and really focusing on making sure Kudo is your translation partner that you can bring into wherever the meetings and events are, on site, in different video platform, in person or hybrid.
In terms of AI then and that part, because I know that plays a big part in Kudo.
In terms of what?
AI, the AI translation side of it.
I just heard it 20 times today and it's still 10 a.m.
It's that thing that is like overused at the moment. Obviously AI seems to have blown up and is rapidly evolving everything at the moment, it seems, and really changing the curve in which where people work. Also, it seems their expectations as well. It's getting to the point where it seems that if AI isn't baked in as part and parcel of your products and platform already, you kind of potentially almost dismissed of like you're lagging behind and stuff. But it's clearly been a part of your platform and part of Kudo for a while. But has it had a more recent impact? Has it allowed you to do more for customers and events and things like that? And what's your general opinion just on AI? Are you a heavy user yourself, or is it more just integrated into Kudo as a service?
So I think there are 2 areas, whether we use AI at Kudo, where I'm utilizing AI myself, and the other one, what is Kudo AI and what we do. So I think I have this philosophy of a music chair game, right? Kind of a everybody thinks that they are the last person with a seat, and the AI is the DJ here, right? So, I'm an accountant. I'm not going to be replaced. I still have a seat. I'm a physician. I'm a auditor. I'm an interpreter. I'm a translator. I think I'm a CEO, right? So there is definitely this kind of idea that I still have a chair, I still have a seat. I'm going to be the last one in the chain. I don't think that way. I think the couple of AI and human is pretty fascinating, amazing. I'm quite more efficient these days because I do a lot of planning, do a lot of thinking with the support of AI, my messaging internally, externally. At the same time, I want to just share last week I was at AI Summit in New York. We were providing AI translation for the event, 11 stages. We had a booth. There were about 100 plus AI companies on the show floor. And I walked around and definitely agentic this, agentic that. And I looked at, if not maybe 80, 90% or maybe more of all these companies are focusing on adding efficiency and speed to an existing workflow. So we can pay your bills faster. We can do your research faster. We can basically provide you a better workflow efficiency, save you time, 10x, 100x faster. So my first question is around whether let's say if we are using AI and become a lot more efficient, a lot faster, and we're going to save time, let's say 20%, 30% time every day, are we supposed to work more or use that 20, 30% time on doing something other than work, right? That's kind of my big question. So what are we doing with all these additional efficiency and productivity tools because of AI? Are we like adding better quality to our daily life? And what was disappointing to me, I couldn't find a problem that anybody really solved, an actual big problem. It's not about adding speed, I can do it more, but here's a problem and I can solve it. Like, so there were two companies that they're providing AI for the event. One was doing summary at the end of each session quickly. Great, I cannot attend all 11 stages at the same time. I cannot choose one, but I can hear and read the summary of the other ones. Amazing. A problem being solved. The second one was Kudo AI. This was an open floor, 11 stages in Javits Center when you hear everybody. So we provided captioning, and on the phone they had 80 countries representative. So we had people from Japan, Korea coming to our booth and saying, thank you for providing this because we have a hard time hearing what's being said. Plus, some limited proficiency in language. So I'm quite happy. I'm very proud that we're actually solving real problem with Kudo AI. Talking about Kudo AI, we launched it in January 2023. First, business ready product for speech-to-speech, announced publicly. We have 5 patents on it. It's a solution we've been working prior to that for about a year. We are application, not foundational model. We're application level. And the question about is it good enough versus high quality is more of our perception and our kind of a mindset. And this is for me personally has been a challenge over these years. Again, going back to Security Council, going back to G20, and the expectation of failure is not an option versus, hey, you can solve language accessibility problem in businesses by human interpretation. There's just not enough of them. They just cannot do it. That's why none of these businesses, they ever tried a live language translation, right? So it's a blue ocean. And that's fascinating to see our Kudo AI is growing 300 multiples, right? 300x over 2 years. Also, we see or human interpretation growing at much lower pace, but still growing.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting some of the points you made there, because I'm sure nobody's asking for things to be translated quicker at an event. And I think most people, if you ask them seriously, would value quality over speed of anything, whether that's travel, food, relationships, whatever that might be, right? Quality outshines most things. It's interesting that those companies are trying to solve things faster. I was listening to a podcast on the way here, and Elon Musk was predicting that within the next 10 years, work will be an option. So it makes me wonder where those businesses and those jobs and things like that are heading, anecdotally. But back to your point about you and this other company, who I know we also work with them for our show, really solving two major challenges: accessibility, one, making it a comfortable and an experience which they can actually accurately understand what's being spoken about and retain that information. And then to this other company, the ability to not miss anything else, but again, also retain that information, because we as humans have, especially when there's a challenge around understanding, have a real hard time holding on to that information that we learn at events and things like that, and then being able to take that back into a business and actually make use of it, whether that's as a founder or that's relaying that back to a team to make use of it and things like that, right? And that's 90% of the value of an event, is education and information to help sectors and industries and businesses grow. Something I researched before we came on about what Kudo's also been doing is you recently launched, I think it's called a client glossary management system, which gives the actual user control over things like terminology. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and why that's important for organizations to kind of have that level of control?
Happy to, but I want to just open something about language accessibility. So, Adam, you are very lucky. You are a native English speaker. By World Bank statistics, people with proficiency in English, on average, they make 40% more compared to those with limited proficiency in English. If you attend any conferences, when there is a Q&A, you see all the English native speakers, they raise their hand, ask questions. But you hardly hear from Koreans, Japanese, Chinese to raise their hand because they're just not comfortable. In a global enterprise kind of a workforce mentality, employees, they never ask, hey, I cannot follow our CEO's town hall meeting, or this training that was done and recorded by our US team, I'm not able to follow, because they worry about the next promotion cycle. They worry about, maybe we should change. Our vision, our mission is really about bit of a balance, creating a bit of a balance. So language is not necessarily the limit to growth potential for individual and businesses. And if you look at this kind of a massive opportunity, AI is the only way to be able to do that, right? And easy access solution. Now I want to it's a good segue to talk about glossary, right? So we see there's a lot of AI companies that talk about translation, speech, AI voice, ASR, transcription, live captioning. Definitely, there is no shortage of AI companies in this space. 2-3 people just started, great traction. There is a lot of need. I'm happy to see this number of businesses out there that are starting. Our bet is about quality of translation and about customization. It's about using customization for your brand for your specific terminologies, product names, names of people, right? Mr. Green is a CEO, and Mr. Green doesn't need to be translated in different colors, right? So these are, again, this is a very simple example, but that's where we are investing to make sure also not only you can upload all of this, but also you can really have AI to really take advantage of your continuous innovation in this space. So we see this as a great differentiator, but as a great way for creating that excellent experience for users. Because yes, we are all skeptical about AI, right? And for me, if I see an error on AI generated anything, it stands out, computer to human error generated. Over the last 20 years, I shared, nobody asked, what's the accuracy of your human interpreters? Are they 99% or 95%? The answer would be depends on the day and depends if, how's it going and overall the speaker and all of that. But you can't really measure accuracy of your physician, of your interpreter, of your chef. Depends, just how it was made today, right? But on AI, what's the accuracy? What's the latency? I want in seconds, right? Milliseconds. So these are the things that we are continue to see as human skepticism when it comes to technology. But it's a good thing. It's good to go in with this kind of a doubt and experience.
It's a really interesting point you make, isn't it? Because we ultimately put this pressure on technology to be perfect and infallible 100% of the time. And often that is down to our opinion of how that should actually also play out, not necessarily the truth of how it plays out. But yet, those technologies and solutions are ultimately built by people that are themselves imperfect, right? I know going into my event every single year that not 100% of things is going to go according to plan or go well. There's always going to be misses on the day, kind of thing. And to the accuracy point, it was interesting when we first started using translation that Event Tech Live was often translated to or interpreted as Event Tech Live most of the time. So we had a challenge around that one with our own name. Before we move on, just tracking back a little bit too, because I think you make a really, really interesting point about how language can be a differentiator in economic opportunity for people and things like that. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to assume that you maybe never watched this program, but did you ever watch a program called Star Trek by any chance?
No, I'm not like one of those Star Trek that watch all the episodes, but I think I know what episode you're talking about. That was an interpreter, right?
Well, the interesting thing that I found out, and there was a question about if this human race is traveling across all of these galaxies and meeting all of these different aliens, how come everybody can speak English? Okay. And the law goes that actually they had a really advanced translation system that allowed them to interpret any language and hear it, and then they spoke back and blah, blah, blah. Do you think, you're the experienced one in here, how quickly do you think that technology is going to come down the road where me and you'll be able to be sat across from each other like this now, speaking our own native languages, but fully understanding each other in just a normal setting? Do you think that's far down the road?
So you're asking how many days or how many months or?
I mean, if it's coming as quickly as days and months, then I think we're in for a treat. But yeah, maybe it's a few years out. I don't know. Maybe it takes somebody like Apple or Google or things like that to really, really push that technology. But
so I would never say never, so definitely there is a day that we're going to be able to communicate with very, very minimum latency. Even for us, as I tend to process what I want to say right now, there might be some emotions involved and so on. But what I want to say is one of the verticals that are so when it comes to speech, translation, we're looking at 3 areas: accuracy, fluency, and latency. Accuracy is how much of a content I'm able to follow Is it going to be a major loss in meanings? Fluency, how natural this translation is, right? How human-like the translation is. And latency is really whether you count by words or by seconds or milliseconds. How long does it take from the source language to the target language? These are the three areas that they need to improve and measured on a continuous basis. Now, going back to the example, you and I sitting across from each other and having a conversation, it's about what kind of a conversation we're having. Or am I asking direction? Am I asking for your recommendation, what to order on the menu? Or you're my therapist and I'm sharing something quite important with you and I want to hear you. So one of the verticals that has been quite surprising for me personally is houses of worships. This is really high, kind of a very sentiment, emotions matter the most, right? Rather than words by word translation. The voice, the emotional voice in the AI matters. And it's one of the fastest growing area for AI speech translation. Why? Because churches, mosques, they're everywhere, right? And they're not enough. Even some of them, they have access to volunteers, but there are some, because of immigration, because of like very diverse communities in very remote areas in different countries, there is a need, there is actual need for people to come in and attend a service on a Sunday. So this really gave us a lot of hope that definitely you can overcome some of these gaps of human touch when you deliver speech powered by AI, because that's the best option you have. And then, of course, this option is evolving constantly. So when we can speak the same language, why we want to use any tool in between? If we're not able to communicate, anything that we have access to is good enough, right? But then there is a big question about language learning, how important it is for our kids to start learning a second language, third language. And
it's a really interesting point you make there, because when I've been doing some research before our podcast and my questions were going to revolve around like, where's translation heading next? There was a lot of terminology that I'd not really come across before, and it was around like voice cloning, self-learning glossaries, context-aware translation, dubbing of synthetic voices and things like that. It sounds to me like, although that all will probably happen and come down the road, from what you're saying, the important thing is not just the words being spoken, but the inflection and how then people understand and perceive based on emotional tones and things like that. Like, we all know we can say the same word, say it happily, angrily, sad, things like that. It's the same word, but the way that we speak it ultimately changes the implications of it when somebody's receiving that, right? So do you think that element there will be the most important kind of evolution of this technology in the future, in the quality and the way that it's used?
Absolutely. These are like context is very important, right? So when we're walking here to the recording studio, you made a comment about the weather. Okay, so if I was your translator and I was continuing to translate that, okay, it's very strange weather in Dubai today because of the sandstorm. It's almost like as if it's dark, right? It's cloudy, as if it's polluted. So if you don't have context of what was said, the translation quality is gonna be pretty bad. So, and it goes back to your earlier comment, nobody's asking for speed for translation, they ask for quality. So we see it's a compromise between speed and quality. So, for example, we have the ability, it's a feature flag on our product, to listen to the prior 10 sentences of what was said through LLM and then bring it back the translation. So this, of course, this feature is going to add more latency because we need to process that, right? Of course, features like voice cloning, do I want to sound like myself in other languages if I'm speaking in a group? Or I'm okay. When you have that function, also, do I need to opt into some data privacy? Who else is going to use my voice? Who else is going to actually clone my voice? I don't know, for some reason, I don't have a great voice, but
somebody who wants to get into your bank account might have the required resources and things like that to do that.
Great news, by the way. There are AI companies that they detect clone voice by AI. So because there is a lot of voice has been one of the main differentiators as far as kind of a authentication for people, but now that's a big question as well.
See, that's interesting because that feels like that should be the responsibility of the network operator to detect those while the phone is active, to protect its customers from that type of scam. Maybe I've got it wrong, but that seems a very logical thing to be.
I'm sure. But, when I think you probably sign your agreement with the bank, there's a lot of disclosure on the bottom that
nobody wants to take responsibility for anything, right? But that being said, maybe it probably is different in different parts of the world. In the UK, there is, institutions in place to regulate that kind of thing and give the customer protection from fraud and things like that. But it's just an interesting way of thinking about things, that this technology is fantastic and it's very helpful, but like anything, it can be used for good or bad, right?
Exactly.
I want to talk a little bit more about something you mentioned quite early on, which is about partnerships. For me, the events industry on large is built on the foundation of fantastic relationships and partnerships between companies. The outcome of an event is no one person's whole work. Even an event like Event Tech Live is hundreds of people and dozens of companies coming together to make that happen. Tell me more about your partners and your reseller ecosystem, because I think that's something that's an integral part of what you do today. What makes a good partner fit? What should other founders be looking for when they're assessing partnerships with other companies?
So partnerships for us is they're in three categories. Like our vendor partners that we use their tech or their services. Then we have technology partners that our tech integrates with them or coexist with them in a very happy and collaborative environment. And then we have partners that are resellers or people on the ground that actually use our tech and really bring the whole event experience or meeting experience for their customers. So I believe your question is more about the last two, which is technology partners as well as our event partners. So on technology partners, definitely we're just a small piece on the entire event experience. We're providing live translation and captioning during live event. Of course, we have recording and transcription post-event, but it's all about that 1 day, 2 day, 1 hour live experience. There's a lot of work ahead of it, and there's a lot of work after it. And as you know, in production, in event business, people have a very short memory. You're just as good as your very last event. So we want to make sure that last event is always positive, right? Now, it's all about really coordination. So the challenge and the opportunity for, in my opinion, for technology companies in event space is no matter how much tech first solution you have, you need at the end of the day that service element to be able to support it. So service mind, customer mind approach from those who have the product vision for the founders, to me, is number one reason for success. So definitely if we want to build partnership, technology partnership, for us is number one priority to make sure our partners, they have that kind of a customer-centric event experience for their tech. They understand what it means to deliver during that very short time everything that you worked for months for it, right? Now, and for any reason, if something doesn't work as it's supposed to, how to communicate promptly and effectively at the same time, not, oh, we get back to you. And so that's, for us, is important on the partnership. Now, when it comes to our reseller, so we have, I think, 32 as of today, really highly qualified event companies that they provide AV, conferencing, and interpreting services in different regions of the world. In Dubai, we have actually 3 partners, and it's growing, right? So these are companies that can provide turnkey solution for on-site events or hybrid. And the success for us is providing reliable tech, onboarding, technical onboarding, how they can support their customers, but more importantly, sales enablement. Again, to be able to position our product for the right use case. There's a lot of learning in the AI space in the event, so we need to be very close in communication with them to really make sure they're fully on board.
I couldn't agree more with your advice around service being crucial to having a successful business within this space. I've said for nearly a decade now that for me, SaaS in the event space should almost mean software and a service, not as a service. And I see it time and time again. It generally is the most successful companies that have that customer service mindset first and foremost. That's what companies are generally actually quite happily to pay a premium for as well. The technology comes as part of that, but it's the knowledge and the skill set and the people and the responsiveness and things like that that really do cement long-term relationships with these organizations. And having people on site makes them feel comfortable that they're in those moments that there is something that doesn't go quite right, there's somebody to turn to and at least be there to try and support and resolve those kinds of things. It's a really interesting time for me at the moment because, as I said earlier, there's so many new companies coming into the event space with, in some cases, really niche tools to help potential problems or challenges and things like that. But with very small teams, obviously they're brand new, but also a slightly different mindset that it can all be SaaS-based and things like that. And maybe it will change over time. Maybe those tools and platforms will succeed on that basis, but very, very, very relationship-based here, I think, in the event space overall, sorry, should I say. You run a globally distributed team. I think that's a really interesting thing. You've obviously done it for a long time. And I see more and more companies going this route now, again, because of technology being in place. You don't necessarily need an entire team in one place and things like that. But on two sides, what challenges does that create and what opportunities does that create as well?
Yeah. One thing you said prior to this is about like number of companies coming to new companies in the event tech or event space. So my view about event, especially in-person event, is I'm very bullish about the growth potential in this space. We tend to be more and more isolated professionally and personally, you know, because of this. And getting people together is just a fantastic experience. That leads to your question about remote team, right? When you talk about remote team, so we were remote before pandemic.
Yeah.
We started the company as a remote company. And the idea was be close to customers. So we have team members in Asia, in Europe, in Americas, when it comes to client-facing team. And then we have also that local service and event base that they're delivering the experience, the onboarding. The opportunity is definitely being able to cover all different time zones, have the perspective, customer's perspective, when it comes to all the nuance of business practices, languages, rules and regulations. Definitely, I learned from my French employees that, hey, you don't usually ask, are you available at noon or 12:30 p.m., right? That's usually when the lunch break. Most people, they take that lunch. You ask for 2 p.m. or 11 a.m., right? Are you available at this time? Just simple, basic stuff, right? And then the other advantage is just having different people with different perspective in the team. The challenge is time zone, right? When you start your day, when you end the day, there is always activity. There are activities that they require your attention or could require your attention, or you can get yourself in the middle of it. So being disciplined from like the founder's perspective, from a management perspective, to just have a proactive kind of approach of how you manage your schedule. But also kind of try not to send like Slack messages over the weekend or emails, because, just give everybody a bit of a time to re-energize over the weekend. But when I think the most challenging part for us as a remote team is, there are a couple of people that I've been working with at Kudo for the last 7-8 years, and I have not met them in person yet. Okay. However, if you ask them, compared to the prior job experience, who they went to the office, they feel closer to their teams than the one that are going to the office every day. So it's really about the culture, right? We have bi-weekly town hall meetings. We get together. This Friday we have end of the year, treasure hunt game on the call, and a bit of a celebration. So we constantly try to communicate more keeping everybody up to speed about priorities. And then we created different pods, EMEA pod, APAC pod, America pod. So we try to have our own little kind of a community even in the same region as well.
I will have to heed your own advice there. Maybe we can have a chat afterwards, because since moving to the Middle East myself, I've noticed my day extending. In the lead up to my event, it was extended probably from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night for some days, for 2 weeks. So I'll ask for your advice after the podcast on that.
Get a good ice pack. That's what I used this morning before coming to the podcast. I started at 5 a.m. So
I think it's probably the challenge there as well is, and listen, from time to time, do I enjoy every aspect of my job or my business? Absolutely not. I'm real about it actually, but for 99% of the time, I genuinely love what I do. It doesn't feel like work. This does not feel like work to me. This feels like I'm actually relaxing and having a good time and learning some really interesting things from really interesting people. But I think, that discipline, like you say, of knowing when to just, it doesn't matter if there's a Slack message or an email, it doesn't need an immediate response or things, because as founders, your brains can start to spiral and things like that, can't they?
Yeah, it's really a balance. So I don't see work, personal, family. There is a clear cut in my own experience between the three. It's about balancing them, right? While you are sitting at a dinner table, definitely I have a no device on a dinner table. I have a no device taking to my bed and at the end of the night, or start my day with looking at Slack messages and emails. At the same time when I'm at work. So it's kind of like giving the flexibility to be present in any of these three areas of our lives while we're on it, versus having, 9 to 5, I'm going to do this, 5 to 7, I'm going to do this, but having the flexibility to go hit the gym at 11 a.m. because, you need it at that time and that's the best time to do it. So definitely I'm going to go for a swim this afternoon.
And I think just lastly on the opportunities and challenges of a distributed team, I think what I took away from you is communication really is key, right? Being available as a founder to have time with your team, whether maybe that's on a one-to-one basis or in a group setting or things like that. Slack messages are fine and emails are fine, but having time to even conversate over Zoom or Hangouts or Teams or whatever, I think that's really clearly important. It's important for us as at our business that we have that regular communication with people.
Exactly.
My final question then for you, Farbad, is a little bit of looking ahead. And I am asking you to stare into a crystal ball here. But what's your thoughts on where event tech might be heading over the near future?
So I think it's just the expectation of the experience during an in-person event is just gonna go up and up. And whatever technology we bring in, whatever service enabled technology we bring in, it should focus on high quality experience, highly engaged experience for attendees. When it comes to like how we shifted post-pandemic to be more intentional about doing maybe less number of events but higher quality, maybe less number of people but better content. I think this trend, in my opinion, is going to continue, especially speaking with global enterprises. They are definitely cutting budget on their events, not necessarily on the quality of the events, a number of events that they're doing. They want to do more with less, right? And a side conversation I had with somebody who was just saying, hey, we're going to cut down on number of languages we're going to provide for this event because they just cut my budget. And I said, well, how many people are you bringing in? And this is the top tech companies, one of the top tech companies, US companies. I said, well, we don't have a budget cost on catering, but on the technology. I said, well, do you prefer to bring people that they cannot follow the content, but still offering them filet mignon for dinner? And he said, it's not my decision, but that's the plan. So if the corporations kind of objectives are not aligned, the event organizer with overall the engagement and content, there's not much technology can do for them, right? Having said that, I think when you bring people, content is the key. Engagement of the attendees is the key. And making sure everybody is fully engaged, understood, is important. So that's what we believe, and we're betting on for years to come, that events should be multilingual, accessible, live captioning, available in different languages. Otherwise, you're bringing people for a very short experience, and it's all about dine and wine, which is important, but you're missing the main key point, which is content and the program and the education part of that event. I don't know if
I fully agree with you. I think dismissing accessibility and making your audience have a high quality and engaging experience to serve them slightly better steak is actually very dangerous, because what that opens up is an opportunity for competitors to approach things differently and attract those people or attendees that have been left out of a comfortable and accessible experience to come and get that education and content somewhere else. For me, and I've said this for a long time, things like closed captioning and stuff like that really should be non-negotiable at events, because everybody has different needs and different ways of accessing content and being able to, whether that's on a third screen or on their own device and things like that. It kind of seems to me the same as like you should come just expected, like the lights being switched on, like people need to see. But it does seem that unfortunately in the economic world that we live in, still to some degree accessibility is an option out of the budget, which is unfortunately.
Yeah, I think I want to challenge every program manager or content creator for these events, global events, to challenge them to start looking for speakers who are going to present in their own language than English. You're going to find much larger pool of very interesting and unique perspectives, subject matter experts. And the technology is there to support you at a fraction of a cost. And then you see, wow, not necessarily those that are today are your pretty much lineup for speakers are necessarily the best options. You know, you have a much wider access, and you have the technology to support that.
Okay, awesome. One very final question. And I'm going to say you don't necessarily need to have an opinion on this, but some recent news that kind of hit the waves in the event space in general, and especially on the event tech side, was Cvent's acquisition of Goldcast. Do you have an opinion on that as a founder? Do you think it signals anything, or do you think it's just part and parcel of the evolution of event technology and companies and the way that VC money and private equity and things like that work?
Yeah, no, it's actually quite exciting time. I think it's a very strategic move by Cvent to really turn the company quite in a big platform. So it's not just about the data. You want to create the whole experience for attendees as well. And as I know, it was a very competitive process for Cvent to get that success for acquisition. And when you think about, like, there are less than a handful of companies that now you have the entire experience of technology, data, as well as on-site and online experience. And Cvent, with this acquisition, definitely continue to lead in this space.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's obviously been lots of conversation about what it means and is it positive, is it negative? But I think for me personally, I think we should see it as positive, because while ever Cvent, as arguably one of the global leaders in the space, is making these investments and sees the opportunity and the growth and things like that, I think as an industry we should see that as a positive signal. I would start to get worried if Cvent doesn't make an acquisition for 12 months or more. I think that obviously signals that there's either not the opportunity in the market or there's not the right companies to bring into that. So I think it's positive myself, and I think people wanting to topple Cvent off the mantle, I don't really get the focus on that or the obsession with that personally. But I think there's enough space in the market for everybody to succeed in the space. So Farbad, thank you very much for taking the time once again to spend time with me and talk a little bit about your career journey, Kudo, and the other businesses that you've been able to found and provide to the events industry. For anybody out there that wants to go and learn more about yourself or Kudo or any other businesses, where's the best place to go?
LinkedIn is the best place. Send me a message. I'm happy to get on a call. Any questions, any challenges, I tend to make myself available if somebody needs, if I can be any help.
Perfect. Thank you once again.
Thank you.